Welcome, everybody, for another edition of Real Talk. And today I'm excited to bring you Gabi Mann, who is joining us here. I've known Gabi now for a few years through her involvement at a local Keller Williams office, and then more currently serve alongside her on the board of directors for our local association. For Gabi, thank you so much for taking time on this Friday, right before Memorial Day, to join us on Real Talk.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm super excited. I have been watching your podcast and always thinking, oh, I hope one day he asked me to come. And you did. So thank
It
you.
is. It is. Well, it's an honor. So, little background on Gabi. She is the founding member of the GM group at Keller Williams. She's also one of the founding members and past president of our local NAREP chapter here in Oregon. She's served on various capacities for PMAR, including on the board of directors and VP of Agent Services. And I just know her as a passionate person, but also extremely passionate about the Hispanic community and expanding home ownership. And we know that's a growing opportunity. I'm excited to talk to you about that. But this show, as you know, Gabi, is more about your professional accolades and all the ways that you've served our community, and more about getting to know you as a person, so that people kind of see beyond the facade. So that's what I'd like to do. So
You.
you grew up in Mazatlán, Mexico, to a single mom. You were the oldest of four siblings. Tell us more about your upbringing and those experiences.
Well, I'm very grateful, very I cannot tell you how much I admire my mother for raising four daughters on her own and doing a good job. I think all of us, turn out into decent people, people that are doing good things in life for others and helping others. And for that, my mom is incredibly proud. I grew up with very limited resources. I mean, you use everything that you have. You say things, you convert one thing, you find it, when you are growing up in a place in which resources are not available, everything can be used twice. So you look a way of, not letting those things go. So it was very we definitely grew up with lacking of a lot of material things, but at the same time we have a lot of we were very fortunate for having a mother that worked so hard, that taught us about the importance of working hard, going to school, and going to school always was very important growing up, and turning education into that tool that was going to help you to go ahead in life. And yes, that's how we grew up.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you mentioned in our pre-interview was that you understood that you couldn't afford to make bad decisions. You had to take advantage of those opportunities, including education. And I think that requires a certain amount of wisdom and a certain amount of maturity that not a lot of younger kids have. As I witness you and see you in your professional role, I see that theme kind of come through in that maturity and that determination. So yeah, I guess from your opinion, and I know it's hard to brag or boast, but through that experience of growing up with limited resources and having to do well in school and be determined, how do you think that impacts how you practice as a realtor today?
I had always considered myself kind of a survivor. Like I'm always in survival mode. Like you had to take care of that piece of business that comes to you very well from the beginning to end. You just don't know it, that opportunity is gonna come around again. And it's perhaps because of how I grew up. Like I mentioned that to you, being the oldest, a single mom, coming my mom being a single and barely making ends meet, always was thinking, well, I see my mom how hard she works. If I messed up and I do the wrong decision here, there's not going to be someone that I can say, okay, I have my parents that will take care of me or help me or bail me out. So
Mhm.
for me, that never once was a an option. Like you had to be careful with all the decisions making. And also always thinking, well, I had three younger sisters. I had to set good examples for them. And
Mm,
that's had always been my mojo, how I do business. It's so important to me that, the younger Latino professionals in this industry look, I'm not saying that I'm, the pedestal person, but there is a way to do things the right way for the right reasons. And I share that with you, how I learned it, from who I learned
right.
it, do the right things for the right reasons. So yeah, and that was also part of my motivation to really make the chapter NAREP happen in Oregon. I went through personally a very bad experience that for me was like, well, and these are the people called professionals that are taking care of the people in my community. There is something really wrong with this. And so this association came as a result of something really personal that happened to me, but also creating a group, or bringing together a group of professionals doing things for the right reasons, the right way, that so that consumer and the community can look at and say, okay, well, so and so is associated with this group, must be a good one. You know,
Yeah,
it
totally.
mhm.
Well, it's one thing I love about you is that you are very inclusive. And not only of the clients that you work with, you work with a very broad group of people, but also you're extremely inclusive of even fellow realtors who, have a Latino or Hispanic background, because you see the big picture here and you really want to be able to provide and have a legacy of a healthier, more educated, opportunity for that community to achieve home ownership. So it's one thing I love about you. And before we jump ahead, I do want to get to that story about you buying your first home. I think that's where you were headed with that. But I mean, obviously growing up in Mazatlán, extremely formative experiences, with your mom and everything there. But there was another formative experience that took place back in 1996, I think it was, when you met your future husband.
Yeah, we met in the summer of 1995 in Mazatlán. He was there for just like a little bit over a day, just in and out. He was there celebrating his college graduation, and he came to the place where I was working. And it so happened that we barely talk, in the limited English I was speaking at that point, and him with his limited Spanish. So I mean, 1995, 1996, technology wasn't as as we have it now. So there was no internet. So we would write letters back and forth, and we will have friends that will help us to translate that. And we dated like that for over a year. He came a few times to meet my family, to say I want to marry her. And the first time that he came to Mazatlan to visit, all my family was there in the airport picking up my husband, like 30 of us. Like if you had seen my big Greek wedding, that was me and my family, like
That's
all of
hilarious.
us. So, and that was his introduction to my family. And then I came to visit and to meet his family. And a year later, we got married in 1996. We had been married almost 30 years. It will be 30 years this September. So
Congrats.
yeah, and it is against the odds, because it's not easy. We dated, long distance for over a year. It was very different once you get married and you're living now with that person.
And then you moved to the United States in, was it 96,
In,
97
in
then?
96, in
Okay.
96, my husband and I bought our first house in 1998. Yeah,
Okay, got it.
98. Yeah.
So at that point you had completed college in, obviously, high school and college in Mexico. And now all of a sudden you're moving to a new country. English is a second language. You're still learning that. That must have been quite a shock, to come here and in some respects kind of start over again.
Yes, and getting my first job, trust me, I was sharing the story with you back in the days. I mean, you will not, I mean, like you had to print the resumes and mail them, or go by office and drop them. So I think I sent out like over 500 resumes, and I went to maybe 50 interviews to land one job. And the big thing that prevented me many times was, well, who are your references? Like, well,
Mm,
I had never have a job in America. If you don't give me the opportunity, like you
right.
can go to Mexico and Mazatlan, and there you will get very good references. And finally, somebody gave me the opportunity, and that was a great opportunity. Going back, you don't take opportunities for granted. You are so grateful for that, and you build up from that. And John and Patrick Dorr, who own an insurance independent agency in Tiger, like, I don't know you ever heard from them, but they have an office almost next to Washington Square on Greenberg Road, and the community will call the office the Casita Amarilla, the yellow house, because technically it was a little yellow house, and that was the office. And 95% of their employees were Spanish-speaking agents, and they hired me. They gave me the opportunity. They gave me the opportunity to get my licenses, insurance licenses. But I wanted to continue growing, not just to stay there. I wanted a job in which I could build. And, unfortunately, is when I realized my college education from Mexico meant nothing, and I went back to school. So
Mm.
went back to school, and it took me, I will say, 7 years to get my college degree done here in America, because I was working full time. And when English is not your first language, there is some requirement of classes that you have to do in order to get the credits for college level and then transfer. And so I went through all of that. And as you can imagine, working full time, well, I was not able to go to school full time. So it took me some years. I graduated. I worked to get my diploma on June 12th, and my daughter was born on June 18th.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's how I tied it. But I told myself I had to get this done, because once I had children, and at least until they are all 18 or plus, I'm not going to be able to finish this. And having my first child, being pregnant, that first trimester, you're sick most of the time. So, like, no, I had to get it done. I had to, and I got it done within 1 week to spare.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, again, these stories you're telling just, really a testament to your grit, your ability to take on a challenge. And I just think about, if I were like, okay, I'm going to move to Mexico and I'm going to learn Spanish as a second language. I'm going to get married. I probably don't have a network of friends or family beyond my spouse's. And then I'm going to try to get a job in the financial services industry and go to school. And I mean, it's a lot, but your ability to take on these challenges and continue to persevere, I think, is a testament to who you are. So it's inspiring. But I want to go back just a little bit to that first house experience, which I think you said was 1998. You and your husband bought your first home, and obviously no names need to be mentioned, but it sounds like you had a pretty poor experience with the realtor you had worked with.
Yeah, I mean, there was no, I never, until, when I came to the industry, like, oh, this is how things are done, because there was never like the consultation, for example, that we had with first-time home buyers, or any buyer or seller, right? She came to my world referred by my neighbor, and it just, for me, being so new to the country, and to doing this, I knew very little to hardly anything. And as an immigrant, for me, aesthetics was really important. Like, I came to this country, I worked really hard, I want a brand new home. And nobody explained to me like the value maybe of not necessarily looking at brand new homes, and the importance of location. Now, don't take me wrong, we ended up buying in Sherwood, which is a great community. But had I known, for example, that it was a better investment on buying a fixer-upper in Lake Oswego, I would have bought that.
Sure.
And my life today would have been a lot different, just because of that small investment. Because back then, the price that we paid for that first house in Sherwood was exactly the amount of money we could have paid for that fixer-upper.
Mm.
But I didn't know better. Like, and my husband was going to wanted me to be happy. So we moved to Sherwood, and Sherwood is a great community. We lived there for a few years, very happy. And I still go to the same church that we started going in Sherwood. And even though I had churches closer to where I live, is because that's what I know. That's the church where my kids were baptized. They did their first
Mm.
community, the confirmation. So I continue to go there to Sherwood.
Hmm.
Uh, And I try to relate that experience to my clients when they start thinking, oh, well, but new things are better because they are new. Well, yes and no, and just educate that community, give that education that I never had, and I wish I
Mm,
had.
right. Right. You didn't feel like understood all your options at that point. And it's interesting because as you know, I've interviewed various folks on this vodcast and oftentimes, not always, not universally, but oftentimes realtors are inspired to get into the profession as a reaction to the fact that they just had a really poor experience. And that's something I hear that is common. And I think that's awesome, right? Like you go through an experience, it wasn't up to your standard or what you think is possible. And that then inspires you to get into the business, not for your own benefit, not for the money or the flexibility, but because you see a path forward to be able to help others in your community at a higher level than you experience. So I think
Yes,
it's awesome.
100%. Yes.
Okay, great. So you first started in the financial services insurance, and it sounds like you then, after working for the Door agency, then went on to State Farm, I think, correct? And at that point, kind of advanced and got some additional accreditations. And so tell us about that phase of your career, and also kind of like, what lessons did you glean from that potentially influence how you practice real estate today?
You know, I think the best introduction of credentials of who you are is the things that you are doing every day. I
Yeah.
still today get people reaching out to me because I helped them when I was in the insurance industry,
Mm.
or they knew me from back then. And I had never been like, and we will go down back to that first question you asked me to think about, right? And I should have utilized my connections that I had when I was in the insurance industry, but I didn't. But even so, I get people reaching out to me. So and I had been very fortunate to have amazing employers. After working for John and Pat Doerr, I worked for John Freeman, State Farm agent, who is still in business. And then from there, I work and I was hired by Scott Edmonds, who is was a very well known and respected agent in within the State Farm, and specifically in Lake Oswego, because that's where his office was. And he gave me a lot of opportunity. He supported me. He paid actually for some of my education as well.
Wow.
In 2008, I completed a leadership program through the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and he paid for that program for me.
Very
So
cool.
he paid for, I told you this. I remember him saying I had a moral obligation to all my employees to pay health insurance for them. And he not only did it for me, for my family as well. And he really was very championed me as continued to evolve in my education. Working for him, I got many designations. I got my security licenses, Series 6 and 63 for investments. When I left his office, I was working in my charter financial consultant designation. I got, certification to sell long-term care insurance, many. And that was the kind of person he was. He wanted me to really succeed and, continue to be better, because at the end of the day, by me being better and learning more and having more education was going to translate into benefit for him, right? Because I was helping his clientele. So great people, but there was just a point in everybody's lives, I think. You continue to have ambitions and you are a student of the industry, because insurance, financial services, real estate, very align very well. I wanted to continue to grow. And for me, growing there, there was not more opportunity. My options were to move out of the city and even to move to other state. And I was not going to do that. My husband is an only child. My children are the only grandchildren. And so just the idea, the thought of taking them so far from the grandparents was not going to be an option. So that's when, I left the industry. And for me, it was, I thought I wanted to try real estate, but the scary thing was, how am I going to go leave 100% commission, having a foundation, and I had a pretty good salary with many very good benefits. was like, I don't think I can do that. And
Mm.
I thought about it for 5 years until a very good friend of mine at that point said, well, I'm tired of hearing you complaining about it. Why don't you do something about it? And she, made the introduction for me with the first person and individual that I worked for in real estate. And that's how my career began. And I had always been with Keller Williams. And, I don't know what the future is, I don't have a crystal ball, but I love the people. I believe in their systems. I believe in the tools they have available for you. So for me, it's a company that has been working and where my alignment is.
Yeah, yeah, right on. Well, there was a lot there, and it was very generous of you to commend Scott for being supportive and helping you achieve all those designations. But I just want to remind everybody, you can't push on a string. So you were pretty motivated as well to want to go through. I mean, he might have paid for a lot of that, but you were the one that were sitting studying, about the securities laws and regulations from the early 1900s in a second language, by the way. So let's give credit where credit is due. And I also want to give a shout out to Denise Wilson. I think that was the friend who introduced you to Chris. And Denise, of course, is an industry legend in the title industry here in the Portland area. Has been doing that for over 20 years.
Yeah,
So she put you in touch with Chris Suarez,
yeah.
who another Portland legend in the real estate world, and is still practicing today. And you went to work on Chris's team, I don't imagine you knew it at the time, but I can't think of a better business leader in the real estate industry to go to work for and have a front row seat and see how those systems are built. I mean, what an experience for you to get going. And I can imagine, tell us a little bit more about those early days and the types of things you were doing and the things you were soaking in.
Well, he gave me the opportunity to come to his team as a director of lead generation. And I think it was because I didn't want to go 100% commission and I was not ready for that. I did it for about 6 months, and it was the best introduction to do real estate. I always have told to new agents, start with a good team that can help you to build the systems that they have a structure that they can make you accountable, because those 6 months was training. I mean, we will do script practice 3 times a week. Josh, Hackenjosh,
Mm.
you know him. I learned the scripts from him, like from doing those meetings 3 times a week. And the assistants, Chris already had in place, doing lead generation and training others to set appointments for agents was the best way to really start doing, real estate, even though I didn't become producer until, like early in 2016. But then I already had the skills. I already knew how to get on the phone, because I truly believe that if you learn those bases in real estate, regardless of how the industry or the market is, if you know how to do that grinding, like getting on the phone, do door knocking, cold calling, all those things, business is going to happen.
Hmm.
And it was just, the best education I could have received. I mean, you invest in your education, and that was my investment. Sure, there's huge splits when you are with a team, but it's investing. I invested in my education for 5 years working for Chris.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was a very good experience.
Yeah. One, I think so. The other thing out of that is I think that when you are a new realtor, if you stay on the solo path, the chances are you're just not getting as many attempts to engage with clients and have the opportunities to, get your at bats, so to speak, to use a baseball analogy. And when you're a part of a team that has a much more robust lead flow, your frequency of having conversations, of listening to clients tell their stories, of better understanding their issues, and then really just trying to resolve them just gives you more and more opportunities, right? So if you are a new realtor and you're watching this, I think this is great advice that Gabby's giving here. If you can, if it works for your situation, go see if you can be a part of a team and have more opportunities and at bats. There's more collaboration and more ways to grow and get better faster. You can still become a great realtor without that. It just might take you a little bit longer.
Yes.
Right on. And then you took a huge leap in 2020 when you went out on your own.
Yes, it was right before COVID. So I left the team in December 2014, no, 2000 and December of 2000 and what is it, 19.
Yep, yep.
And then COVID hit on March 15. Remember when, it was the order, we couldn't go outside. And I left the team. I came out with how many names to my database? 20, 30, which is not much.
Right.
And like, what am I gonna do now? Like it's, where's business going to come from? And I remember a lot of the conversation was, well, we all have to begin cutting our expenses and we don't know what is gonna happen. It was a 3 months of freaking out, everybody. Like, why are we going to? It took us about 3, 4 months to figure it out,
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
made it through. And so at that point, a lot of real estate agents were dropping zip codes. Like, getting the good zip codes close to where I live, it was almost nearly impossible. But then everybody was dropping the zip codes. And I remember getting a phone call from Zillow asking if I wanted to look into that. And like I said, well, which zip code is? And he gave me a few options, and I think, oh, this is actually pretty close to this and this and this, which it potentially can give me business in all of this. And I signed up for 30 days, and oh my God, I converted like 5, 6 transactions out of 30 days of leads from Zillow.
Which is a lot. For those of
It,
you, if you're not an industry professional and understanding, like to start out on your own in 1 month and convert 5 to 6 transactions off the bat. Wow. That's getting off running, sprinting.
Yes, it was. But again, this was thanks to the fact that I was with a team that, I used to pick up phone calls coming from leads. I'm like, the LP Mama script, it still works. And if you don't know where it is, call me. I'll be happy to take you through that, but still works. And I had those skills, so I knew how to do it. And I was requesting clients sign buyer broker loyalty agreement before the agreement became a requirement.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. So you that which forced you into explaining your value and how you approach them and all that.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, it became just a very second nature once that was enforced because I already had been working having them because again, I was in a team and we have a buyer broker agreement. Buyer broker agreement, no, buyer loyalty agreement.
Hmm.
And Oli used to say at the end, this is not a binding contract, it's just an agreement, that I'm going to be working with you and your agent. And that's how we'll explain it back then. But then when it became a requirement, just adding and switching the script. Now it's a binding contract.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's amazing. I mean, you've been in the real estate industry now for over 10 years in financial services and related fields for obviously over a decade and in that, but you've been a solo agent now for a little over 6 years. But as I look at you, Gabby, I think of you as someone who has years and years and years of experience. And um, I've in preparation for this, I've read through a bunch of your client testimonials, and there's a few common themes that a lot of your clients say talk about how you practice your real estate. And I want to focus on a couple of them. Number one, the thing that I think really defines you and sets you apart from many others is you are a very genuine person. You come to the table with a service mentality, but what I love about it is you do not discriminate. You treat everybody the same, whether it's a first-time home buyer on a modest budget or a luxury buyer. You pour your heart and soul into serving that person, and don't treat people differently. And I think it's a wonderful attribute of yours. And I guess maybe you can, maybe you can't. Is there something in your life that you can pinpoint that you think helped you develop that attribute, or maybe you just want to talk about why that's an important value of yours?
I always tell people what you see here with me is what you're gonna get.
Hmm.
And good or bad, I show up the same way anywhere.
Hmm.
There is
I
no
can
other
attest to that. I can
other
attest to
Gabi.
that.
There is no other. And I just, and I'm very proud of my heritage. Like I just closed a pretty good transaction luxury home. And I told my clients I come into to Seattle to drop a gift for you. I got you a very good bottle of tequila from Mexico. So they
Nice.
always remember who I am and they appreciate and I show up to tell them I appreciate your business, know who I am, and that kind of thing, you know. And it's important for me that they know that I take like I had other clients that for a while the wife was living here while we were trying to sell the house, and I was so worried every night we're going to bed thinking I hope we get an offer sooner. You know, I'm doing everything to get her an offer because honestly, I don't want her to be by herself other week. I don't want her to be sleeping by herself other week. And that kind of caring, you know, and people read you very well. They know when you are honest, when you are genuine, when you are candid, and when that comes from the heart, you know, it's transparent. And I that's you know that's I don't there is no other way about
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can feel it around you as well. You've always been extremely, transparent and forward in a loving way. You know what I'm saying? Like in a way that you're really trying to help others. So, okay, great. You're genuine. You show up the same for everyone. And people talk in your reviews also just about the level of loyalty and care that you take for clients. And I was hoping you could share the story about the customers you helped in Tacoma, and how, in essence, you couldn't find someone up there that you felt like could serve this family as you would have. And so what'd you do? You went ahead and
Yeah,
commuted. So tell
yeah.
us that story.
Yes, yes. And it was a few years ago. I had this friend of mine refer me a piece of business. I had just got licensed in Washington, I think. And he goes, "Hey, Gabriela, I have a referral for you. They are looking in Vancouver." And like, great. So I called him. But well, it wasn't Vancouver. It was Tacoma, Washington. So, and like, okay, so I said, well, you know, I would love to help you, but you know, I don't think I'm gonna be able to serve you, you know, the best way because I'm here and we are about 3 hours. I mean, I can help you. I can find a house for you. Like, you know, I'm syndicated to all the MLSs, so I know I can find you a house. But it would probably be better to find someone local. So I reached out to like 4 or 5 realtors, and the first question I was getting asked was, well, what is the budget? Now, 450,000 in Tacoma near to Seattle is not a lot.
hmm
So it's not that we have a lot of houses to be choosing from, right?
hmm
But for agents to ask me that first before
First
any
question.
first question, and well, and then I, you know, maneuver, you know, I like, oh, you know, how to like tell them, well, but potentially there will be pretty good referral, you know, pipeline for you. So I couldn't find a single one. I think the only one that was willing to take the business called me once we were under contract because he was on vacation somewhere, couldn't get
Mm.
back to me any sooner. So, and like in the process of me interviewing other agents, the family will call me and Andres, Gabriela, Señora, help me, you know, like I have houses, I want to go see these homes, and like, but I haven't found you an agent there. So, anyways, I found a very good agent. It was not even a Spanish speaking agent, but she was fabulous, really good agent, really, really good agent. I like it. I wish you were bilingual, but she was. Anyway, so I said to her, you just need to be my eyes. I just need you to go see the houses take them to see the houses. So, you know, we probably look for a good 3, 4 weeks. We found one, and what a good investment they made. Oh my God, I was so happy, so happy. I found them the house, and then, well, you know, I cannot just. I had to be there for the inspections. You know, I had to be there. So he didn't know I was coming. So I left very early in the morning. I drove, you know, up to Tacoma. I got there. I parked my car. I got there before he did. I was already in the house with the inspectors. When he comes in, he couldn't believe his eyes that I actually traveled the way to Tacoma for the inspection. And I said, yeah, I was not going to leave you alone. And I had to hear from the inspector, this is a sound home. And, you know, if it was going to be a good investment. So we were done with the inspections, and he said, well, you haven't had lunch yet, and I'm not going to let you go back. Let's go eat some tacos. And I said, okay, let's go eat some tacos. So I had the best tacos probably in the whole Tacoma area. So good, so good, so good. And yeah, we drove back. And thanks to also another part that many times realtors don't understand is the insurance part. But thanks to my background, I could foresee we may be gonna be having a challenge here to get the insurance immediately before even became a question. Began working around and finding the insurance company that could insure the house for the time being. So we ended up negotiating a lot, like price, credit, repairs, the repairs of that repairs and the repairs that came back as condition from the appraisal. So I mean that house that he paid for, I think 450 something we ended up paying. Today can appraise, and it has only been like 3 years. Can appraise for over 600,000.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
And that those are the things that made me so happy.
I can see it as you tell the story, right? And it's a testament to how much you do actually take ownership and care for your clients. But the fact, again, it shows your loyalty, and your sense of commitment to say, hey, I can't find anyone that's going to represent you as well as I can. So you know what? I'll just drive to Tacoma and take care of it is amazing. Um, and I think that I think you mentioned this customer was in the Hispanic community, and this is something that is also a value of yours is your service to the Hispanic community. And again, I noted earlier you were a founding member and initial president of our local NAREP Association, which is a national association for Hispanic real estate professionals, and it's something that you're very passionate about. So tell us more about why that's important to you. And then also, you had mentioned in our pre-interview some really interesting statistics about the growing market in the Hispanic community.
There is a need. There is a great need for more professionals in this industry, Hispanic or Spanish speaking professionals that really care for that community. And in 2025, if companies are not realizing this, I mean, I don't know what else they need. Numbers are speaking for themselves. So 2025, we represented the Hispanic community purchased 441,000 homes in America.
Yeah,
If it
roughly 10%, I think, right?
yeah. And if it wasn't for these numbers, these houses being purchased, the 2025 would have ended up with a deficit and not a gain in new households in the country.
Mm,
Hispanics in America is the youngest demographic number.
hmm
We represent, that nearly two-thirds of Hispanics in America are in millennial age or younger.
mm.
Average age of a Hispanic in America is about 32 years old. Average age of a non-Hispanic white in America is about 42 years old.
So much younger population.
Much younger population. Now, if you combine what I said, that two-thirds are millennial or younger, those are the communities that are going to begin buying homes.
That's right.
The next 20 years, 7 out of 10 new homeowners are going to be Hispanics. Why? Because it's a younger population. Pretty simple. So, companies need to really wake up to these demographics. If you want your business to survive, you need to really begin thinking. And not necessarily because, millennials are younger. Many of them have been born and raised in America, but their parents were not.
hmm
And you had multi-generational needs as well.
hmm
Where community comes to see houses and they want to bring their parents, because like any other community, the opinion of the parents is very important.
Sure.
And many times they also getting some help from the parents, or many times the parents are going to move in with them.
hmm
So it's not just, it's in understanding the culture as well. And
hmm
those are pretty awakening numbers. Companies need to understand and getting, like, how can we capture some of that business?
Right.
Because in purposes of money, what the Hispanic community represents for the US, if we were to be ranked as an economy, we will be the number 4 or 5. We are now in trillions of dollars of the power that, economic power the community has in this country.
Yeah, yeah. But historically haven't had access to the education, to the resources, to the people. I think we we underestimate in our society how important social capital is. When I'm talking social capital, I'm about, I learned about real estate investing through my older cousin who, sat me down when I was 22 years old and, for 2 hours walked me through spreadsheets and pro forma. That was not a college degree. That wasn't a podcast. That wasn't a YouTube channel. That was social capital. I think where NAREP is partially headed down is to help inspire and encourage real estate professionals into the industry to focus on serving this growing market. I mean, yeah, in the next decade, Hispanic homeownership is going to explode.
Yeah.
There's going to be tons of Hispanic buyers, and we need to build out the capacity to serve them in a responsible way.
So in 2014, the NAREP created an initiative, which is the Hispanic Wealth Project. And every year a report comes out as a result of this initiative. And the focus really is on the economic mobility and wealth building of Latinos in America. And the way how they have approached this is, well, we are going to create this, if you want, this map, like with 10 disciplines or 10 principles that if you apply them, it will get you there. And going back to what your cousin presented to you, right? Historically, Hispanics, we haven't had the opportunity to receive the education or to have access to the information.
Hmm.
Uh, and things as basic as teaching our kids or helping our kids to build credit.
Mm.
That information is not there because wealth building is not, wealth is such a, broad word. I mean,
Hmm.
well, what is wealth? It can be wealth of knowledge, wealth of many things. But wealth building is also creating that systematic, pipe of information that generation to generation can learn from. You
Hmm.
know, I taught my kids that importance of building credit, for example. We as parents added them to our credit cards without them knowing so they can begin building credit, right? But that discussion doesn't exist in our community. We do not believe, and I'm saying we older generations like myself, um, growing up in Latin American cultures in lending. Lending is another, taboo that, you don't put your money in the bank because they're going to steal it from you because that
Hmm.
happened in our countries.
Hmm.
In America, it's different.
Hmm.
And telling people you don't hide your money under the mattress. You need to put it in the bank,
Hmm.
especially if you want to get a loan to buy a house or get a loan for your business.
Hmm.
So, and so going back to the Hispanic Wealth Project, and this was created as a result of the last recession. Why? Because the network of Latinos in America was lost, but nearly two-thirds. So
Mm.
people were left with nothing. And
Mm.
that happened because of predatory behavior, predatory actions of professionals in the industry. A lot
Hmm.
of our community lost their homes because they got a loan from a mortgage from someone that didn't do things the right way.
Right.
So the initiative was created to really what can we do to work to reduce that huge gap of net worth between Latinos and non-Latinos families in America.
Yeah.
It's a very ambitious, initiative. The goal is by 2000 and 2034 that gap can be reduced by 50%. So I guess we will be talking then and see
I
where.
I hope so. I love it. I just your again, your commitment to others is astounding. And what I love about this again is that like you have no financial benefit to bring other Hispanic realtors into the profession, right? I mean, if you just stayed there and absorbed all that business that's going to come in the next decade, you are going to be a very wealthy lady yourself. But you see that this is not about you. This is bigger than you. This is about serving others and building out that capacity, the wealth of knowledge to share with others so that others can benefit from what you've learned. So it's a real testament to who you are, Gabby, and I so appreciate your commitment to the profession and the community and everything. But I do want to ask one more question. And of course, the question I always finish these episodes on is if you could go back in time when you first entered the real estate industry and on your first day of real estate, if you could whisper a piece of advice in your own ear, what would you want to tell yourself?
get your LLC established the right way.
Ah, interesting. I haven't heard this one.
Yeah,
Expand on that a little bit.
yeah, I wish, I wish I had had that education from the very beginning, going from W-2 to 1099. Okay, that the importance and how, that can affect you in the midterm and long term if you don't do that right from the very first day.
All right.
And we don't talk about that. I wish there was a class to start with brand new agent. This is how you do it.
Right on. Well, there you go. You could give it in Spanish and English.
There we
I
go,
see a new
right?
class for NAREP right there. I'm going to propose
Yes,
it.
yes, that's an opportunity there. Yes.
Well, Gabby, thank you so much for taking time today and sharing your story with us and letting you understand a bit more about who you are. You're a beautiful person, a wonderful professional. We're lucky to have you here in our marketplace. So, again, thank you so much for joining us on Real Talk.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and you have a wonderful weekend.
You too. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye bye.